The cameras are flashing. Someone from E is asking about the couture. A publicist is whispering the designer's name off to the side. And if you zoom in just a little closer, past the gowns, past the diamonds, you'll notice the accessory that's actually doing the work, a small enamel pin. Because in Hollywood, a $20 pin on a $20,000 gown can function like political armor. Sometimes it's activism, sometimes it's just a costume. People look at the Oscars and see a red carpet. And don't get me wrong, the fashion and the spectacle are part of the fun. But I also see a marketplace where the currency is clout and the product is your attention. I'm Kavita Harris, and on Hot Takes from the Matriarchy, we don't just follow the culture, we deconstruct the blueprint. We watch how the industry waits for a movement to get popular and then turns it into a statement piece. The 98th Academy Awards was a masterclass in that architecture. While the fashion police argue about whether cobalt blue is the new black, we're looking at the power structure. Who spent their social capital to buy a safety net? And who actually built a kingdom? Leading up to the ceremony, I ran a survey on Threads about what I call the politics of the accessory, and more than 200 people weighed in. The results were revealing. Only 36% believe the red carpet protest pins actually help movements. 64% are skeptical. 19% call them pure performative clout. And 45% said they're a little bit of both, which tells me something. A lot of people are already starting to see the design because a $20 pin on a $20,000 gown isn't a movement. It's a brand protection strategy. So tonight we're tracing what I call the pin trail from the Grammys to the Oscars. We're talking about why Justin and Hailey Bieber suddenly made immigration politics part of their aesthetic. We're looking at Sara Bareilles and why she's one of the few people on that Oscar carpet who actually has the receipts behind her accessories. And we're dissecting the real power play of the night, Ryan Coogler's Sinners. Because Michael B. Jordan didn't just win Best Actor. He and Coogler changed the blueprint of the room. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's start with a concept political theorists call soft power, and one I come back to a lot on this show. So, soft power is influence without force. It's shaping perception, guiding the conversation without actually changing the system itself. In Hollywood, soft power has a simpler name. It's the vibe. It's how celebrities use symbolism to make the industry look like it's responding, even when the power structure hasn't changed. And to understand the pins at the Oscars, we have to rewind a few weeks, back to the 68th Grammys. That's when Justin and Hailey Bieber walked to the carpet wearing matching ice out pins. Now, context matters. Justin's new album, Yukon, had just dropped. And in 2026, you can't just sell a record anymore. You have to sell a persona. You have to sell a moral identity. For a couple that has historically stayed pretty quiet politically, the timing was, well, interesting. Justin, in particular, hasn't really been publicly associated with immigration advocacy or criticism of ICE before. And the reason the symbol mattered in the first place has nothing to do with the red carpet. It was because of Operation Metro Surge, a federal operation in the Twin Cities involving over 2,000 agents, warrantless home entries, and the killings of Renee Nicole Good and Alex Pretty in January. Minneapolis was literally under siege. And suddenly, that crisis was a message on a Bieber lapel. Now, that doesn't automatically mean the gesture wasn't sincere. But in celebrity culture, timing always matters. When a political symbol appears at the exact moment silence becomes a PR risk, that's soft power. It's entering the discourse just in time to stay relevant without breaking a sweat. It turns a human rights crisis into a high fashion aesthetic. But then you have what I call the authenticators. At the Oscars red carpet, Sara Bareilles and costume designer Malgosia Terzanska wore the same ice out pin, but their context looks very different. Sara has been in the trenches of immigrant justice advocacy since the mid 2010s. For her, the pin wasn't a sudden statement. It was part of a longer record. She wore it to honor Renee Nicole Good, a 37-year-old mother and poet killed during that operation in Minneapolis, and Alex Pretty, a 29-year-old nurse who was also killed during the Metro Surge crackdown that same month. That's the difference. One moment looks like a strategic entry into a conversation. The other reflects a long-term investment in the cause. But here's the matriarchy POV. The industry machine loves to flatten those distinctions. It wants Sara's decade-long activism and Justin's glossy PR moment to sit side by side in the same best red carpet moment slideshows. Same accessory, same headline, same aesthetic. And that's where the safety net comes in. Because a pin does something very useful for celebrities. You see, if you say nothing, you lose vibe points. If you wear the pin, you've cleared the bar. Soft power doing exactly what it's designed to do. Looking like you're dismantling the house while you're really just picking out the curtains. It's a brilliant bit of branding, but the foundation hasn't moved an inch. So if the pin is the safety net, then ownership is the escape plan. And that raises the real question. What does power actually look like in Hollywood? That's hard power. In Hollywood, hard power isn't about weapons. It's about control. Control of the IP, control of the check, control of the blueprint. And at the Oscars, one film demonstrated exactly what that looks like. Ryan Coogler's Sinners. The movie walked into the Oscars with 16 nominations. And by the end of the night, it had executed what can only be described as a takeover. Best Actor for Michael B. Jordan. Best Original Screenplay for Ryan Coogler. And a history-making cinematography win for Autumn Durald Arkapaw. Autumn is now the first woman in the 98-year history of the Academy Awards to win that category. That's not symbolic power. That's structural power. Coogler and Jordan didn't make a movie designed to politely beg the Academy for approval. They made a Southern Gothic vampire horror film on their terms, with their creative control, and they made it so undeniable that the Academy had to come to them. Michael B. Jordan's win for his dual role as Smoke and Stack represents something bigger than a performance. It's what I call lease-free fame. He's not renting his cultural relevance from a studio system that can revoke it at any moment. He helped build the property himself. But here's the irony. While the Academy was celebrating a film about outsiders and sinners, ICE operations like Metro Surge were still unfolding across the country. That's the strange paradox of Hollywood. The industry loves the aesthetic of rebellion because rebellion is easy to package. But ownership changes the balance of power. In his acceptance speech, Michael B. Jordan thanked Ryan Coogler for, quote, giving him the space to be seen. That right there is the matriarchy blueprint. You don't beg for a seat at the table. You build a better table in another room. That's the difference between a trend and a legacy. A trend is a pin you remove at the after party. A legacy is a kingdom you own. So, the Oscars aren't really about movies. They're about the architecture of influence. Soft power is the pin. Hard power is the ownership of the screen. And the real product of the spectacle is your attention. Because attention is the real currency of the culture economy. So stop just looking at the red carpet. Start looking at the blueprint. And as we close out this Oscar season, I want you to look at your own narrative. Are you just accessorizing the conversation? Or are you the one directing it? Because the matriarchy isn't about the applause. It's about ownership. Stop asking if you're invited and start asking what you're building. Don't just play the part. Be the one who owns the story. Because in Hollywood, rebellion is a costume and ownership is the script. Subscribe to the podcast, follow the power, or you'll end up as part of the decor. I'm Kavita Harris, and on Hot Takes from the Matriarchy, we don't just follow the culture, we deconstruct the blueprint. See you next week.